Number 5. When you die, there will be free ice cream for everyone, all day and all night. Whatever flavours you can think of.
Hello YouTube. This is the final video in my series of a textual criticism of the Quran for the time being. So far I've shown that the text of the Quran is not as precise and clear as advertised. It is a cocktail of earlier manuscripts and languages which are randomly compiled as a single presentation in the form of a book. It contains grammatical, factual, temporal and linguistic errors which clearly shows it to be a text manufactured by humans, not a god. Today, I will show what Muslims are expected to believe when confronted with their holy and noble Quran, the basis of the system of Islam comprising state, legislature, executive and religion. When reading the Jewish and Christian Bibles, I was surprised that it was not sealed in plastic with a warning due to X-rated contents. You have a father having sex with his daughters, women having their breasts fondled, women's vaginas taste like wine, and men have erections like donkeys and ejaculations like horses. Well, their God had not given them Viagra yet, so I suppose this is what men at the time were dreaming of when they were awake. Islam did not have this prudish attitude, so men were allowed female sex slaves and multiple wives, so there was no shortage of free sex for men. This I see reflected in the Quran, where there is no indication of this pent-up sexual lust. The only time we have a sexual moment is when it comes to the impregnation of Mary, who, by the way, is the only named woman in the Quran. So what we see in 2191 is that we breathed into her something of our spirit and so on. There are several variations of this. So what is this something? It seems sort of embarrassing for Muslims. We have, if you have the literal, her genital parts, so we blew into her, or Malik, who guarded her chastity, we breathed into her of our spirit, or Asad, we breathed of our spirit into that which was in her womb, or if you go to a tafsir, we breathed into the private part through our ruh. So apologetics squirm and come up with amazing translations for vagina, neck, garment, spirit, womb, sleeves of a shirt, private parts, and so on. Very funny. Oh, and because the Quran is so vague, the pregnancy lasts anything between seconds to the more standard 9 months. Crazy. What Muslims have to accept is that the Quran does not fit into the 21st century. Religious laws forbid the destruction of a single sheet that contains Quranic verses. Yet in today's technical environment, does the deletion of a file with Quranic texts constitute the destruction of a surah or ayah? What Muslims also have to accept and fervently believe is that their God somehow proofed into existence, eternal, omni-everything, without beginning or end, from out of nothing. That their God creates matter from nothing, like his throne, a human invention that a God who is everywhere at the same time would hardly require, over water which had not been created yet, and a pen without paper. That the claims of their God being all-powerful or all-merciful and all just are logical contradictions do not bother Muslims in any way. They simply believe. Crazy. Religious laws were decreed when people thought Earth was flat, so that fasting laws and prayer times only fit into the small area of what today is called the Middle East, as in other areas of our planet there is no sunset or sunrise for weeks and months. Crazy. Let's run through some other examples of texts that are outright crazy. I will leave out all the crazy verses related to warfare, killing, slavery, punishment, looting, booty, etc. If we look at 265, 560 and 7166, what is this? Is this a god performing magic tricks? In 2106, why does an all-knowing eternal God need to correct himself at a later stage? In 349 and 5110, birds live by breathing on clay? Sure, happens all the time. In 4160, Allah changes his mind and puts Jews on a forced diet? So if wine was invented by Satan, how did he get into paradise and plant rivers of wine there? Surah 6151 is a contradiction in itself, as it tells Muslims what is prohibited in the form of commands. So if you read it literally, Allah prohibits you from treating your parents well and also prohibits you from not killing your children out of poverty. Say what? Crazy. In 7137, are the pyramids still here? Is the Sphinx gone? Are there other secret buildings that nobody knows of which were destroyed? Allah is personally responsible for thunder and lightning when he throws a tantrum? Muslims are born to prepare for the afterlife and should not care about their lives here and now. Today is just a test, so no worry today, worry about the tomorrow. Does Allah read his horoscope every morning? Cows produce milk where? Milk is synthesized in the mammary gland, in the alveolus, and released through hormone stimulation. If I look at 1693, Muslims claim they have what Christians call free will, in spite of numerous verses clearly saying you have free will if you use it exactly as Allah commands. In 16106, an example of the nonsensical ayat, virtually impossible to understand after reading it only once, and shows none of the claimed eloquence or ease of understanding. In 1701, I find it strange that the Quran appeals to a childish imagination, citing Burak, the flying horse creature. The furthest mosque in Jerusalem did not exist yet when Muhammad was alive. The mosque was named after the Quran, not the other way around. Muhammad managed to make his return trip in one night, where angels take 50,000 years, even though they are made from light. In 1822, we see that this popular story was circulating as the life story of the Christian saints and martyrs. It was named Al-Sineksa and somehow made it into the Quran. What is embarrassing is that Allah did not know how many people actually went into the cave to sleep for 309 years. A newborn baby talks? Talking ants that humans can understand? Because in 27:19 it says that Solomon smiled at their speech, meaning humans can hear and understand what ants are saying. And 27:16 even goes one step further, claiming that Muslims can hear and understand anything that flies. I am aware of all the cries about ants being able to communicate not only by smell, but I've never seen a scientific paper that proves anyone ever having had a conversation with an ant. Now either you put up a video with you having a chat with an ant, or shut up. When Muhammad wanted to marry Zainab, his adopted son's wife, Allah promptly revealed a law that he may do so. So until today, it is okay for a Muslim who adopts a son to later marry the son's wife should they get divorced or the son get killed somehow. No eclipses allowed? Stars are just decoration, located closer to Earth than our moon, and to be used as weapons against evil spirits? And here, Allah asks Muslims where the other gods are. A planet can speak? And are NASA, ESA, and all the other companies who have sent people and satellites into space fully aware they first need to seek divine permission for each launch? Crazy. And what do these actually mean? Because yeah, and then you have the camel coming out of a rock and then becoming a prophet. Now, what I've done is I've collected some verses where the Quran does not mention hellfire, and which verses do, a relationship of approximately 70 to 30%. So no hellfire, and then the surahs and verses where hellfire is actually mentioned. Now, why would anyone worship a god that will eternally torture you and your children unless you follow nonsensical instructions to the T? I think I've shown that the Quran holds no scientifically correct contents at all. It makes substantial mistakes in chronology, it has several grammatical errors, there are several nonsensical parts which are not explained and are not clear for humans. It makes factual errors such as basic arithmetic, was never protected by any god or deity, is not as eloquent as advertised, and finally has really crazy parts that are superstitions at best. This book is definitely the product of humans and does not have any divine origins as it is claimed by followers of the Islamic religion. As Muslims quite rightly claim that the previous Bibles are man-made and have changed over time, the same is true for the Quran. Again, if you believe that a God exists and has issued clear commands on what you can and cannot do, what you should or should not do, a change of the origins of the book should not change your mind or shake your faith. Thank you very much for your time.